The DarkSeekers are not what you think. With the recent announcement that I Am Legend will have a sequel, fans are excited to see what new creatures and threats this post-apocalyptic cinematic universe will bring. The first film introduced us to the lethal DarkSeekers, humans mutated by the KV virus and turned into savage nocturnal predators. But what exactly are the DarkSeekers, and how did this transformation that drove humanity to near extinction occur? In this video, we'll be delving deeper into these creatures and their involvement in the next installment. And if you'd like to know more about the universe of I Am Legend, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Welcome to the Oasis Geek. To understand what exactly these creatures are, we must explain the origin of the KV virus. The world we once knew has been ravaged by this lethal virus, known as the Crippen virus. But to understand how it led to the destruction of society in this universe, we must transport ourselves to the beginning of its history, before this virus wiped out 99% of the population. Doctors and scientists searched tirelessly for cures to the worst diseases that plagued mankind. In that world lived a brilliant scientist named Dr. Alice Crippen. Dr. Crippen worked day and night in her laboratory, focusing on a single mission: to find a cure for cancer. At the end of many days and nights of tireless dedication, she created something that seemed miraculous: a modified virus, which she named Crippen virus, or KV. This KV at first seemed to be the answer to the world's prayers. It had accomplished what was seemingly impossible. It had cured cancer. Headlines around the world celebrated this incredible breakthrough, and Dr. Crippen was the hero of the hour. But as in many stories, what seemed like a happy ending was actually the beginning of a dark and terrifying twist. As the cure moved across the planet, unbeknownst to them, a time bomb was ready to detonate. The KV, which seemed like a friend of humanity, began to change, to mutate. Suddenly, those who had been cured began to fall ill again, not with cancer, but with something much worse. Like a shadow in the night, the virus spread throughout the world, becoming a merciless pandemic that devoured humanity in its wake. Everything humanity had built, everything we had achieved, seemed to be disappearing as it was devoured by the KV, leaving chaos in its wake. Humans quickly lost the war, because this was not about simple mindless zombies, but the DarkSeekers were creatures that still kept part of their humanity, and they used it to infect as many people as possible. The DarkSeekers were beings with milk-white skin, glowing eyes, and uncontrollable rage. During the day they hid from the sunlight, but at night they took over the streets, lurking in the darkness and hunting the few remaining humans. Although humanity seemed to be on the brink of extinction, Robert Neville, a military scientist, was immune to the KV. Neville had become some kind of legend. He lived in an abandoned New York City, surrounded by the remains of what had once been a bustling metropolis. By day, he searched his lab for a cure to KV. By night, he fought the DarkSeekers, trying to survive another day, another month, another year. But what exactly are DarkSeekers, or why did this virus evolve? Upon infecting the body, this genetically modified pathogen unleashes chaos within the victim's endocrine system, acting directly on the adrenal glands. The virus causes them to uncontrollably hypersecrete high levels of adrenaline and noradrenaline, the well-known stress hormones. This dangerously accelerates the infected person's metabolism, raising their body temperature and heart rate to unsustainable levels. Breathing becomes labored and shallow, the body goes into a state of total hyperactivity. The pupils dilate to the maximum, the skin pales, and the veins become marked, as if the virus were injecting nitro into the bloodstream of the unfortunate infected. Soon the victim is reduced to a primitive predator, dominated only by savage hunting and feeding impulses. It loses all capacity for human reasoning and empathy. it is nothing more than a biological killing machine. The greatest weakness of these zombies is their intolerance to ultraviolet light. Direct exposure to the ultraviolet rays of the sun is quickly lethal, so they are forced to remain in the dark and dingy spaces during the day. Only at sunset do they emerge to stalk and hunt. Despite their savage behavior, they retain some vestiges of human intelligence. They are able to memorize the routines and habits of their potential prey and set traps for them based on that knowledge. They even demonstrate a hierarchical social organization, grouping themselves into clans with dominant leaders. When a DarkSeeker is captured, their companions organize coordinated missions to locate and free it. They also learn to avoid the luminous traps set by the protagonist to lure them. They are not completely irrational monsters, but cunning predators with primitive reasoning abilities. But there is something more interesting in all this, and that is for the zombies or DarkSeekers, it is Neville who is the real monster. Neville is perceived as a monster by these beings. For the DarkSeekers, Neville abducts and experiments on their own kind, being an evil and feared entity. Ironically, in this inverted world, the human Neville has become a terrifying legend to the creatures that now make up normal society. While the infected are the new standard of this post-devastation planet, Neville is a rare specimen, a lone monster who kidnaps his fellow humans to experiment on them. The title I Am Legend does not refer to Neville's perspective as the last human, but to how he is seen by the DarkSeekers. Understanding this, what might we see of these creatures in the second film? Given that the first film focused largely on Neville's fight against the virus and the DarkSeekers, the second installment could further explore the origins of these beings. We could discover more about the mutation process, perhaps through flashbacks showing the early stages of the infection and how society initially reacted to it. Perhaps it could be revealed that the virus is a weapon that was developed, or perhaps an accident gone wrong. We know that the DarkSeekers have some intelligence and reasoning ability. The sequel could explore how these creatures are evolving. One thing that would be interesting is if the film also shows the perspective of these creatures. How would the uninfected humans react to the conclusion that these beings are intelligent and that they must now share the world with them? Imagining how uninfected humans would react to the realization that DarkSeekers are not merely wild beasts, but beings with intelligence, adds a profound dimension to the plot. This revelation could trigger a complex set of emotions in the survivors. The realization that these creatures have human-like cognitive abilities could generate ethical and moral debates among the uninfected. Initial fear and distrust could be transformed into curiosity or even compassion towards these beings. The surviving society would be forced to rethink its approach and survival strategies. Instead of considering the DarkSeekers as a threat to be eradicated, they could begin to see them as a new civilization with which they must coexist. But to get to that point, the impending war would have to be won by these creatures. It would be they who would provide the opportunity for humans, as humanity will never forgive them. But tell me, what do you think of the DarkSeekers? Are you eager to see them in the second movie? And if you would like to know more about your favorite series and movies, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. You're on the Oasis Geek.